Pe muchie de cuțit, așa putem descrie situația din Pakistan. S-au adunat la un loc o clasă politică nesigură, o criză economică istorică, probleme grave de mediu și peste toate domină atacurile teroriste făcute de talibani. Vorbim despre o țară care este putere nucleară și are peste 230 de milioane de locuitori. Instabilitatea într-un astfel de stat poate avea efecte mai ample decât cele din plan local. Cine va ajuta Pakistanul? Mai ales că trebuie să luăm în calcul și faptul că partenerii săi tradiționali, Statele Unite și China, au propriile lor probleme. Discutăm cu trimisul Islamabadului la București, ambasadorul Zafar Iqbal, despre complicata situație a țării sale. Sunt Cristina Cileacu, începe Pașaport diplomatic. Zafar Iqbal, Ambassador of Pakistan in Bucharest, welcome to Diplomatic Passport.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cristina, giving me another opportunity to speak to you and through you to your audience.
Sunt anumite regiuni de pe glob care, deși fac eforturi, nu reușesc să scape de blestemul atacurilor teroriste. Pakistan este din nefericire o astfel de zonă. De exemplu, în 2013 aici au avut loc aproape 4.000 de atentate. Ulterior, situația s-a îmbunătățit dramatic și atacurile aproape că au dispărut. Însă, de când Afganistanul vecin a revenit sub controlul talibanilor, în Pakistan s-a intensificat activitatea teroristă. De la începutul acestui an au fost deja 4 atentate. Cine sunt cei care își ucid semenii? Cei mai cunoscuți sunt membrii grupării Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, adică talibanii pakistanezi. Dar în țară activează 78 de organizații teroriste. Unul dintre liderii pakistanezi care s-a implicat în lupta contra terorii alături de Statele Unite după atacurile din 11 septembrie 2001, fostul președinte Pervez Musharraf a încetat recent din viață. Din păcate, țara lui, care are peste 2600 de kilometri de graniță cu un Afganistan guvernat de haos și violență, este nevoită să continue bătălia cu ucigașii, pentru care ideologia radicală contează mai mult decât viața oamenilor.
Ambassador, we are recording this interview the second day after the death of Pervez Musharraf, the former president of Pakistan, a controversial personality. But what we know for sure about his former job is that he was the one supporting Americans, and also he was a person who was against extreme Islam. How is felt in the region the departure of the Americans from Afghanistan, because unfortunately, your country is still suffering from terrorist attacks?
First of all, our condolences to the family of the former president. He played a great role in the politics of Pakistan and also in the region. As you said that he supported Americans in their war on terror, but I believe that terrorism is a global threat, and we all need to come together to root out it from all parts of the world. So his role was in this context. And about the Afghanistan, as you know that I myself am not in a position to say something which represents the official viewpoint, but I can say that Pakistan all along has seen this issue as a problem which should be resolved, and Pakistan believes in a peaceful neighborhood. Pakistan believes in an Afghanistan which is peaceful within and with all its neighbors, and makes progress. And we believe that such a peaceful Afghanistan is important for the peace and development of the region also.
Well, I think everyone agrees with you except the Taliban, because unfortunately your country is now targeted by the Pakistani Taliban. Unfortunately, over the years, the Pakistani official army and also the very powerful secret service of your country was also accused from time to time of helping the Taliban. Who is helping Pakistan right now to fight against terrorism?
We have a resolve to fight against terrorism, first of all for Pakistan, and we also urge all our neighbors to join forces to root out terrorism and extremism. We don't believe finger pointing or blaming. I think it's a global and regional problem. and it requires a regional response.
Pakistanul a fost considerat de afganii implicați în activități teroriste un loc sigur, cât timp americanii au fost prezenți militar în regiune, chiar dacă oficial pakistanezii sprijineau Statele Unite. După retragerea vesticilor din Afganistan în august 2021, țara a reintrat sub controlul talibanilor, o grupare care se pricepe la terorism, dar aproape deloc la guvernare, iar relațiile lor internaționale sunt limitate. Efectele acestor lucruri s-au resimțit imediat. Afganistanul este un stat eșuat, unde cetățenii se zbată zilnic pentru supraviețuire, iar teroriștii au terenul perfect pentru dezvoltare. Iar prima țară din regiune care are parte de atacurile lor este Pakistan.
And who is helping you from the region? And I have to ask you again, how was felt the withdrawal of American from Afghanistan in case of your country? What effects
I think
are
generally
right now?
public saw it as a step which could possibly bring peace finally to this war-torn country, which has suffered violence for over 4 decades now. But unfortunately, we are still waiting for things to move forward, especially in the context of development. We are seeing a humanitarian situation also in Afghanistan. And we try our best to help wherever we can, at all regional forums also, and hopefully things will improve.
După ce a început războiul în Ucraina, nicio țară civilizată nu mai dorește să aibă relații cu agresorul Rusia. Chiar dacă Putin s-a pregătit cu banii pentru atacul asupra ucrainenilor, are nevoie în continuare de piețe noi de desfacere, mai ales pentru produsele valoroase, cum sunt gazul și petrolul. Pakistanul este printre țările pe care rușii le curtează ca să-și dezvolte relațiile economice. Oferta făcută de Moscova de vânzare de petrol la prețuri reduse și pe termen lung de livrare de gaz lichefiat a fost primită cu bucurie de Islamabad, iar în luna martie ar trebui să fie deja primele importuri. Ministrul de externe al Pakistanului i-a asigurat pe americani într-o vizită la Washington la finalul anului trecut că țara sa nu primește energie la preț redus din Rusia și că ar dura oricum mult timp să se dezvolte legături energetice. Însă luna trecută, același ministru, de data aceasta alături de omologul său rus, Sergei Lavrov, a spus în fața presei că țara sa vrea cooperare energetică cu Rusia și că se așteaptă ca alte țări să nu intervină în relația bilaterală dintre Islamabad și Moscova.
If we look towards Europe, of course, we cannot notice the war that Russians started in Ukraine. And on the day of 24 of February 2022, when actually Russians started the military attack on Ukraine, at Moscow, your former prime minister was meeting Vladimir Putin. As well, the current Minister of Foreign Affairs was recently meeting Sergei Lavrov, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia. Where is Pakistan in this equation of geopolitics, where the world is divided with those who support Ukraine and those who accuse Russia of aggression?
The world is divided, as you said, but we are not taking sides with any bloc. About the visit of the former Prime Minister, of course, we were not aware that things will happen on this very same day. And about the Foreign Minister visits, I think Foreign Minister was in Moscow also, and he was in Washington also soon after. And we encourage all the parties to immediately adopt diplomatic procedures. And I think if the things went to this extent because of the failure of diplomacy, and still I think diplomatic solution is the only solution to any war. So we support the international community's call, and also the efforts, and we believe that all the countries have the right to right to choose their destination, and the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all the states should be consistently and universally accepted.
Is your relationship with Russia changed lately? If we look at the effects of the war in Ukraine, those are being felt all over the world, including your region. And for instance, the relationship of India and Russia is now much more closer. India is taking advantage and buying a lot of resources cheaper. What is the case of Pakistan when it comes to its relationship with Russia?
I think we also believe that if we can have some trade relations with all the blocs and all the countries in the world, it is something which we need at the moment. It's not specifically that now we are taking advantage of any situation. It's a thing which we are looking at in the context of our domestic perspective. We are facing, as all the world is also facing, unprecedented inflation.
Crisis, yeah.
Inflation. And that is something when you try to look at all the directions, yes.
Crizele economice sunt o obișnuință în Pakistan, în mare parte pentru că țara importă mai mult decât produce. Actuala criză economică însă este fără precedent, pentru că vine pe un fond instabil politic și după o serie de inundații devastatoare pe care țara le-a suferit în vara anului trecut, care au afectat grav milioane de oameni. Pe lângă deprecierea monedei și șomajul în creștere, pakistanezii se confruntă și cu pene de curent tot mai dese, pentru că importurile de cărbune, care întrețin furnizarea de electricitate, au scăzut, iar rețeaua electrică neîntreținută din 1947 începe să cedeze. Efectul imediat al lipsei de curent este blocarea industriei textile pakistaneze, responsabilă de cea mai mare parte de exporturi ale țării. Agricultura suferă și ea, iar asta înseamnă importuri și mai mari, pe care deja Pakistan nu și le poate permite. O altă vulnerabilitate gravă este imposibilitatea de reacție la schimbările climatice, iar implicațiile rezultate de aici deja pot afecta și statele din jur.
As you mentioned, the economical crisis is hardly affecting Pakistan. Actually, you have a crisis from time to time when it comes to economy, but also you have to cope now with a lot of other effects from the flooding, for instance.
Yes,
The last summer flooding provoked damage of billions in your country. Also, you have electricity scarcity, you have all sorts of problems. You will have elections this year as well, and the population, like all over the world, is polarized in your country. But we are talking about something over 230 million people. It's a big number of people. How is this situation that normally creates nationalism and extremism trending in your country? Are those type of influences quite popular right now in Pakistan?
You cannot say that, because it's an age of social media, and in social media usually you get the impact. It's not like the journalism like you do. You do some investigation before, you do some research before, you prepare your questions, you take answers, you put arguments. In social media you just make something viral, and it has its impact before the other side has any time to answer.
True.
So it's a very particular situation, and especially with the younger generation, we have lost the habit of reading or going into details of things. So we are just now seeing a generation which is more with the flash news and more with the images without considering whether they are real or not. So as such, we cannot say that it's a nationalism spreading or extremism, but polarization is definitely there, as we see in other countries also. And every politician tries to use it to its advantage without thinking the long-term consequences, because as they say, politicians usually, they look at the next elections. They don't look at the long-term impacts of these things. So yes, we are having this problem, and economic problem also were confounded by the floods which we had last year. They were huge, and this also proves that now the world is more interlinked in terms of issues which are global. Issues in one region affect the other region. Maybe they are wars, maybe they are climate change related issues, maybe it's a trade. So everything is now interlinked, and that brings us to a point where multilateralism is all the more important, and especially for countries like Pakistan, like Romania, for example. I think in respect for international law and multilateralism is important.
Pakistanul caută împrumuturi noi și discută cu toate statele de la care poate primi ajutor. China a creditat deja economia pakistaneză cu peste 30 de miliarde de euro, dar pentru că la rândul ei are probleme economice, împrumuturile au început să scadă. Mai mult, băncile chineze vor deja să înceapă să recupereze investiția și pun presiune pe economia șubredă a Pakistanului. Statele Unite au pus la rândul lor, mai ales în perioada de colaborare împotriva terorismului, 10 de miliarde de dolari la dispoziția conducerii de la Islamabad, în ideea consolidării unui parteneriat pe termen lung. În prezent, Pakistanul duce negocieri cu Fondul Monetar Internațional, care pune condiții foarte dure pentru acordarea unui nou împrumut. Corupția foarte răspândită la nivelul sistemului de guvernare pakistanez nu ajută prea mult la convingerea creditorilor.
Your country definitely, with the economical crisis and the problems we already discussed about, needs a lot of money and is knocking at the doors of the friendly country that support Pakistan so far. I'm talking about United States, Saudi Arabia, China, of course, and also there are discussions with the International Monetary Fund for getting loans. With this, all the crises and the prices rising, how is the population in the country coping?
Population as such, I think because all the time we see that prices keep rising, but after this war, and also complicated further by political events at home.
And also, let's add the corruption in your country, which is also very high.
I think corruption is something which we are having everywhere.
Corruption is everywhere, but there are different levels.
Yes, and then confounded by the floods, we have some deficit financing issues, and that's why we are in negotiation with the IMF, and hopefully I think soon we will have an agreement with the IMF, and we hope that the things will improve in the coming days and months.
About China, because the situation in the region is heating up, the problems of United States and China, of course everyone is looking towards them. Pakistan is a friend of both, but especially a friend of China, which is loaning your country a lot of money and investing a lot in Pakistan. How do you feel the situation in the region?
I think with China and US, if you look at the history, we were actually facilitator in opening up between the two countries, and if you further go into history, Romania had also a part in it. So we encourage both sides to not escalate, and always we encourage peaceful resolution of any difference of opinion, because at the end of the day, if things go beyond this, I see it as failure of us diplomats if things go towards any conflict. So, and all the conflicts at the end of the day have to be negotiated at the table. So I think the wise approach should be to sit at the table before.
I asked about the population. Of course, some of the Pakistani workers are also arriving in Romania. There are already, let's say, a familiar presence in bigger cities of our country, especially in Bucharest. How is the relationship of our country right now besides importing workers?
In trade, we have seen some positive trends over the last 2 years. This was my focus also when I arrived in 2020. We conducted a kind of research to estimate what is the untapped potential, and we came up with the results that Pakistan can double its exports to Romania, and Romania can triple its exports to Pakistan. And within 2 years, I'm happy to see that this has already happened. And now we are moving further beyond this. Apart from this, we talked about labor import. As I see, Pakistan was helped by Romania in the 1960s and 70s and 80s. A lot of Romanian engineers were in Pakistan to help in our industrialization efforts. And we also have a very good opinion and goodwill about Romanians in Pakistan. We also see it as an opportunity to contribute to Romanian development, the development of its economy.
Yeah, but that was us helping your country
And
was
we
a
now,
long time ago.
Yes.
In the meantime, it's anything other than importing laborers from your country?
I think now we are trying to give it a push to bring back those days when Pakistan and Romania had very close and frequent interaction at the highest level. In the 1960s and 70s, actually every year or couple of years, either Romanian side or Pakistani side was visiting at the head of state of government or head of government level. And we are trying to bring back those days. For example, last year our foreign minister was here, which was after 46 years, you can say. And we are now trying that Romanian foreign minister visits Pakistan, which will be another big event, because last time a Romanian foreign minister was in Pakistan was in 1991.
Ambassador Iqbal, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Atât pentru astăzi, dar rămânem în continuare online pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii și pe contul nostru de Twitter. Revenim cu subiecte noi din lumea diplomației și a politicii externe vinerea viitoare de la 11:30 și reluare sâmbăta după miezul nopții. La revedere!